Now, coming up very soon, there's going to be an update, or maybe more so the removal of an update, that is going to be causing some very big ripples in the OSRS economy. Now, I am talking about Fresh Start Worlds. Now, Fresh Start Worlds is something that was added back in October. It was meant to be a more approachable way to get into RuneScape. The premise of the worlds is that they would exist for 6 months, and everyone would start on a brand new account, no existing items, no existing economy, nothing. And after the 6 months is up, you would be able to transfer all of your progress, all of your items, all of your experience to the main game. Well, it's pretty much about time. Fresh Start Worlds is ending in under a month, and I thought it would be a good time to talk about it. Now, I'm not here to talk about the success of the worlds, whether they were effective in recruiting new players. I want to have a look at how it's going to affect the economy. Now, it's a really interesting discussion because it's something we've never really seen before, and there's quite a few different ways I think it could go. Now, to start us off here, why is Fresh Start Worlds going to affect the main game economy? Well, that mainly comes down to one main feature of it, and that is that progress and items can be transferred over to the main game. So due to that feature, there are going to be a ton of new items immediately dumped into the main game economy all at once, which could have a pretty significant effect on a huge variety of items. More items dumped into the economy all at once would normally lower the price of those items. However, there is a few caveats to this. The first one being that you could actually transfer your profile over to the main game at any time, which means some of the players from the Fresh Start Worlds might have already transferred to the main game and all of their items gone with it, which means those items could already be in circulation. So definitely some of the accounts have already been transferred over, but looking at the population of people still logged into Fresh Start Worlds now, there are still thousands of accounts that are likely to be transferred over at the end of the game mode. Now personally, I think this could have a pretty significant short-term effect on the market, and that's because when it ends on April 19th, I think a lot of players are going to be dumping their bank and transferring it over to their actual main account. The reality of Fresh Start Worlds is most of the people who are still playing are, veteran players. There are probably some newbies as well, but I would say the majority of players have played RuneScape before and probably have a higher level main account already. So they're going to sell their items off, which definitely will have a short-term effect on some items. Now, which items is going to be a bit hard to predict. And that's because the meta for Fresh Start Worlds and the ways people made money is not exactly representative of how it works in the main game. In Fresh Start Worlds, a lot of people rushed specific moneymakers that would help them make the most money early on because the exchange rate for Fresh Start World Gold to main game gold was super high to begin with and slowly declined over the coming months. Certain items were extremely scarce from activities people just didn't want to do on a temporary game mode. Others were way more popular, so it's going to be hard to predict exactly which items people have stockpiled the most, but there certainly, I think, will be an effect. However, looking more long term, I don't really think the market's going to be affected significantly at all. Now, the main reason for that is just simply because the player base for Fresh Start Worlds right now just really is not high enough. At any given time right now, there might be 500 to 1,000 people logged in, which is kind of a blip in the radar compared to the main game population, which is at 100,000 or more, so it's barely 1% of the total actively logged in players at any given time. So I really just don't think it'll have a long-term effect. Not to mention that in an ideal world where Fresh Start Worlds worked exactly as Jagex was intending, bringing Fresh Start accounts over to the main game really shouldn't have that big of an effect overall. In theory, these are players that are going to play the game. Sure, they're bringing over their set of items and gold, but they're also bringing over the server's item demand. So in theory, those things should balance out anyway, leaving us with a pretty neutral state going into the future. So spring is finally here, and you know what that means? It's time for some spring cleaning. And no, I'm not talking about your house. The Manscape Performance Package 4.0 is here, and it has everything you need to keep your balls in check. This package comes with so many different things, it's impossible to count. Okay, well, there's at least 6 or something like that. I don't know, it's a lot. First up, we have the Lawnmower 4.0. This is a cordless and waterproof razor, but probably my favorite feature, it doesn't cut your balls. Surprisingly hard to find in a razor, but the lawnmower works perfectly. You're also going to get the weed whacker for those pesky nose and ear hairs. Honestly, it's something I hadn't even used until recently. My girlfriend was like, what happened to that nose hair trimmer? And I was like, I don't know why. and she just gave me this kind of funny look and didn't say anything, so now I use the nose hair trimmer. Now if today's collapsing economy has you sweating, don't worry, the performance package also comes with the Crop Preserver deodorant and the Crop Reviver toner. The performance package really has everything you need, and I definitely recommend giving it a try. Now's a great time because Manscaped's offering 20% off and free shipping to the viewers of my channel. To claim it, simply go to manscaped.com and enter the code 20flipping. That's 20% off and free shipping by using the code 20flipping. And thank you once again to Manscaped for sponsoring the video. Now sure, we can look at the server's population to roughly guess the quantity of items that are going to be transferred to the main game, but we don't really have to guess because GE Tracker does have a Fresh Start World tracker, which means we can look directly at the differences between their prices and their trade volume as well. Now because the Fresh Start Worlds are almost done, one trend you'll notice between all of the items is the prices are going to be pretty similar now between Fresh Start Worlds and the main game. Eventually they're going to pretty much be equal because, well, as soon as Fresh Start Worlds is done, it's now a main game item, which means why would it be worth more or less? It will be exactly equal. Okay, so just a random item here, the Osmunton's Fang, worth about 50 mil in Fresh Start World, and more interestingly, about 10 traded per day, maybe? And that's remained pretty consistent ever since they kind of entered the game back in January. So 10 a day on Fresh Start World, how many on the main game? 3,000 to 4,000, so not even a drop in the bucket there. Now looking at another resource item, we have the Nature Rune. Interestingly, the Nature Rune in Fresh Start Worlds still worth 170s, so significantly more expensive. Each day in Fresh Start World, there is about 300,000 Nature Runes traded, but if we look at the main game, we have about 40 million, so roughly around 1/100th, which actually is pretty much in line with the server population. Next up here, let's look at another item, the Abyssal Whip, currently valued at around 1.8 mil, and roughly around 30 to 40 traded per day. Main game it's worth less, and about 5,000 traded per day. So just based at looking at a few common items, some rarer ones as well, we're looking at probably around a 1% increase to the supply of a good number of items. But, you know, it's not going to be every item. If we look at like the Twist-a-Bow, for example, I don't think a single one was traded, at least for Fresh Start Gold. So who knows if there's any Twist-a-Bows or if that ratio applies. So on April 19th, what is going to happen? Well, I'm not sure, but my best guess is it's going to do something like this. Is it going to go whoop, crash a little bit as people dump their items, but will pretty quickly recover, and long term, nothing will really change. Okay, so now let's take a minute to answer a few questions that I got over the last month on just some main game regular items. Now, something that a lot of people are talking about right now is the Scythe. While the Scythe is still worth a lot less than it has been historically, looking at the last month, it's actually gone up by about 100 mil. That's pretty significant considering the Scythe has been, you know, at its lowest point ever for quite a while. Ever since TOA, it just never really recovered, and it's kind of just been flatlined at around 300 mil for a while. So why is it going up so much right now? Well, I think it's pretty much all speculation. There's been a bit of discussion from JMods in the community around making the Scythe more viable in future content, and I think a lot of people also think with Desert Treasure 2, new PVM encounters, the Scythe will finally get a bit of love and a bit of use there. Because if we look back at the last couple major PVM releases, it's been absolutely useless. You don't really use it in Raids 3, you don't use it at Nex really, you don't use it at the Phantom Muspa. It's just not really best in slot in any new content, and that's really why the price has slid so much. But I think people are hoping that because it's been so long, maybe the next update, maybe this next one, the Scythe will be useful, but I don't think anyone really knows for sure. Another big item that has seen a lot of speculation, the Sears ring. I totally missed this last time, but look how much this item has gone up. From 300,000 to over a mil just in a couple of months. And now this has once again also gone up due to Desert Treasure 2. Some of the unique rewards they're offering are going to be actually ring upgrades to the historically best in slot Dagonoth rings. Now why is the Sears ring gone up 3 times in value and the other rings not? I think mainly because they've talked a lot more about magic gear with the Verdus robe set, as I think there's an assumption that if they make an upgrade to the Sears ring, they're going to make it at least good this time. Maybe a little magic damage, maybe a bit higher magic accuracy. It might actually be more meta, where the Sears ring right now is one of the least used. Okay, another question someone asked recently, what the hell is going on with papayas? They've gone from 500 up to 2,000 in just a month or two. I would say this probably mostly has to do with the affordability of farming right now. Tree seeds, fruit tree seeds, and herb seeds are all incredibly cheap right now, which means I think a lot more people are farming for experience. And due to that, I think there's an increased demand, well, to protect those trees, and papaya fruit is a way to protect your trees. If you look at the quantity traded, it's gone up by quite a bit actually, about 30-40%. So I think there's just a lot more demand for the papaya fruit now, due to how cheap seeds are now. And the final thing we actually have to have a look at today is the bond. What the hell is going on? The bond went routinely over 8 mil this week. It's kind of crazy. We really have not seen much of a crash from Christmas or any seasonal activity at all. In fact, it might have actually hit a higher high just in March, which is pretty insane. Definitely not a great time to be buying a bond. Anyway guys, that is it for the market analysis. I hope you guys enjoyed it as always. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Now before I go here, I want to give a giant thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to Alejandra, Mitch Reinders, The Hybrid, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed at the Dragon tier. You guys are awesome. I do really appreciate it. Also, thank you to Kapersky, YoYoSub89, and NDM0001 for being subscribed at the Runite tier. Thanks everyone again, and I'll see you next time.